Theo, big fail already for myself.
This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Internet world, West Alabama. How we doing today on this Monday? Good morning. Oh my gosh, when have we been here on a Monday morning? It's been ages. It's been ages since we've been live on a Monday morning. Usually it's Monday afternoon, but we are continuously trying to make the show a little bit better. So we are live here on a Monday morning in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios, just off of McFarland Boulevard. You guys can visit us if you want to. Just off McFarland Boulevard, right past the Tiger Rock on the left. Find Derek and his friends. They'll take care of all your insurance needs. 205-758-3391 for all of your insurance needs, like a good neighbor. Derek Daniel and his crew is there. We're going to have a lot of fun in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios. Of course, we invite you to jump in and join us at Joe Gaither 6 for your comments, your questions, your queries, and complaints. You can also call us if you want to give us a call at 205-462-7340, extension 800 to join the program if you'd like to. Join the fun that is going to be this Monday. Oh my gosh, what are we doing on a Monday? We are live in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios, and we don't have Mason Woods with us. We are live. We're going to talk about Alabama and Kentucky. Alabama beating Kentucky 96-83. I almost pulled out every hair on my head during the first sequence of defense, but the fellows got it in gear and got it done, ending a 2-game losing streak. We're going to spend most of our time talking about the Alabama basketball game in Coleman Coliseum. We will talk about the Alabama baseball team. Yes, that baseball team that's 8-0, that's flipping the birds to the cameras. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you have an issue with that? Coming back from down 10-0, having a little fun in the locker room. We'll talk about that as well today. All here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. But we need to take care of some business first. Why are we live on Monday? We are live on a Monday thanks to new friends. Theo Fernandez joins BamaCentral as BamaCentral's newest intern. And as soon as I saw the name Theo Fernandez come across my wire, I said, ooh, I think we can maybe make some adjustments here on our Monday show and maybe see if we can make things a little bit better. So, good morning, Theo. You follow Theo at Theo Fernandez _. He's twice as good as Mason. Mason has 1 _ Theo, are you trying to one-up our boy Mason? Tell everybody who you are, where you are in school, and just how you doing this morning. Let's start with there. Those handful of things.
First of all, I'm doing great, Joe. There are not many opportunities to get to talk Alabama sports for an hour on my Monday morning. So
I'm sorry. I know college kids waking up this early. I'm sorry.
I'll wake up gladly every Monday morning if it means getting to talk Crimson Tide athletics. I'm happy to be here. I'm a sophomore at the university here, majoring in news media. And I met Joe way back last year, freshman, working my first ever job here, Crimson White soccer reporter, and ran into Will Miller. That was my main, point of connection.
We love Will Miller on this show.
I'm sure everyone here is familiar with Will and his stuff. And Will's the one who introduced me to Joe as he came to one of the games, I believe. We talked a bunch. Then I just kept running into you. SEC basketball tip-off last year. All sorts of events, and now I'm on your radio show. So it's crazy how that works out.
Yeah, let's go back to that soccer game. I was in a different point in my life. What was your perspective? I mean, we're gonna have a lot of fun on this show, but we need to set the stage. We need to set the tone. I walked away from that soccer game saying, "Will, did he know that I was joking most of the time?" What was your? Okay, I'm meeting this guy. Whoa, okay, Alabama soccer pretty good that season, so it was a relaxed atmosphere. Let's get your perspective on the first interaction between Theo Fernandez and Joe Gaither.
Well, Joe, you talk about being at a different point in your life. I think that sums me up pretty well. I mean, I'm a freshman. I've been in I've lived in Tuscaloosa for about 4 weeks. I'm from New York. A month ago, I was living in my small town up in New York, and I go to this Alabama soccer game, and I have Will Miller in my ear telling me they went to the College Cup last year. They went to the College Cup. So I'm thinking this is a huge deal. So Joe comes in, and everyone I met, I just kind of viewed as, the big thing around here because I was just I was lost. I was probably the smallest fish in the pond that is Alabama sports media. And it was all a blur to me. Everyone was it was just so hard to figure out what was going on. But Joe, Will, everyone helped me out a lot along the way.
So we're leaving the Crimson White. You're right. So you spend a little time with Crimson White. Great. Now it's WVUA and it's BamaCentral. What other ponds are you casting your line in right now?
Well, I'm a little all over the place right now. I've done some production assistant work for Crimson Tide Productions. Always love getting involved behind the scenes. I'm working as an MMJ over at WVUA as an intern, and then
you said MMJ. What is that? Monday morning journalist?
Multimedia journalist, just basically going out and filming stories, doing a package on the Alabama-Kentucky game that's airing today on the station. So everywhere that I can get involved is great. And then the other big thing that I am a part of is I am the lead play-by-play broadcaster for Alabama's ACHA hockey team, that's ACHA. And so I'm spending a lot of time over in Pelham talking Alabama hockey on the call about twice a week during the season, as they have a lot of homestands.
Are you running into my friend Preston McElhaney?
He's the play-by-play guy for the women's team, so I run into him a good bit.
And what's that? Okay, so tell us. I mean, this is not disrespectful. It's just framing. This is context. It's not Division I, but the boys and girls, are they on scholarship of any kind? And what's the competition like for Alabama hockey?
So there are actually 4 hockey teams over at the University of Alabama. First of all, the best overall team as far as on-ice performance is the women's team. They're incredible.
They're kicking like 22-1 or whatever.
They just won College Hockey South, which is the conference that most of our teams play in. They're going to nationals in a couple weeks, and they're expected to make a lot of noise. The program that's only in its second year is doing some incredible things. You have a couple men's club teams that compete in that College Hockey South, and then our club men's team, ACHA, the highest level team that plays here. They're coached by Mike Fairbanks, USA hockey rep for the state of Alabama, former D1 player. He's a great guy. He's got us in a conference. The team is joining a conference with Louisville, UNC, NC State, probably Georgia, Tennessee in a couple years. And this is the precursor to NCAA Division I hockey in the South. It's a long way from happening, but you guys keep your eyes peeled on this program because give it 5, 10, maybe 15 years, and this will be a real story.
Okay, well, this is a detour, but you triggered me a little bit. You just said, give it 5, 10 years, and we'll see it as a Division I sport. Theo, how do we rectify? How do we balance that thought with what is coming down the pipe of, we're probably going to be cutting NCAA sports because of budget? This sport, tennis, that sport, soccer, swimming and diving. The non-revenue sports are all on the chopping block. Obviously, that's going to be the last thing that Greg Byrne or any of these college athletic directors want to do. But you're talking about adding sports, and people are talking about cutting sports. How do those jive?
Well, right now, it's kind of an experiment in the South, I'd say. The idea of hockey being a revenue sport, because there are certainly places in the country where that is the case. You look at the University of Georgia, they have a brand new arena that they just built. Amazing, amazing place.
Is it hockey only?
It's an ice rink. It's Aikens Ford Arena. It is devoted to hockey. It fits about, I want to say, around 4,500. They have concerts coming through. Megan Maroney, a ton of other artists playing there. So they're getting other uses out of it. But the idea would be, they want to be a Division I school. Liberty University, they have a rink that they just built in the past couple of years as well. It's clearly something that people are curious to see if it's profitable. And if it is, you talk about cutting sports all you want, but hockey is something that very well could be headed to the South in a new form. through college sports.
We see hockey as a potential revenue sport, not non-revenue. Is that our justification? Is that our lane into adding hockey?
Well, I mean, Joe,
It's all about the money,
if we keep
Theo.
things real, the only way it would be added is if it could be a revenue.
Right.
We're not going to add another non-revenue. So
exactly.
Everything I'm saying is really contingent on hockey being something that can drive in money. And your guess there is as good as mine. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, Flim, $1. That's all right. Well, we're charging you for that. That's okay.
New show rules, I guess.
Theo, we're gonna get you relaxed around here. I'm just teasing you a little bit. We're gonna get you relaxed. So let's keep going right here. You're from New York. I watched the third period and overtime of the Four Nations final. What was that? Saturday night, Friday night?
That was Friday, yes.
Yes, Friday night because it was
Thursday.
Oh, you're right.
Thursday night.
Goodness gracious, everything runs together. I like the Preds from time to time. I'll turn on hockey. What's it going to take for hockey to really take root in the South?
Well, you look at the struggles that hockey's had in the South. I mean, Atlanta's had 2 teams have to move away. Huntsville is one of the cities that is able to bring in revenue, you know. They have the Huntsville Havoc. They do great work. They used to have a D1 team. So it's kind of a mixed track record. Meanwhile, in Nashville, they love the Predators.
Oh, the Predators are huge.
You look at further west, Dallas, they love the Stars. I mean, it is a city that loves hockey. So you kind of have places where it succeeded, places where it hasn't really succeeded. And everyone kind of wants it to succeed, though. Like you look at USA Hockey and other organizations, they want hockey to really take root here. And I think that with how much, you know, our country loves sports, with how much people can get behind teams.
Does our country love sports, or do they just love distraction? Give me a good distraction.
Hockey's a great distraction. Hockey is 60 minutes of guys, full speed collisions. I mean, you're telling me an area that loves college football couldn't eventually get behind hockey? I think that the market is there.
Fighting in college hockey? No fighting. No fighting in international or college hockey, right? Those are the rules, at least.
Yeah, well, you are not familiar with Alabama's hockey teams if you're going to talk about no fighting.
I'm not. I'm asking.
These guys love to get physical. Almost a little too much fighting, if you ask me. But these guys are fun. They are aggressive, and who doesn't love to lay down a couple hits? You know, cross-check a guy into the boards.
We're talking traditional squaring up. We're gonna hockey fight. I'm grabbing your sweater. You're grabbing mine, and we're maneuvering.
Yeah, you will see those if you go over.
Oh my gosh, that's like the dangerous part. Is like I've got your hand on you. Like you've been in a fight before. It's okay. It's not the worst thing. But being in a fight on skates, that's a whole different issue.
Oh, absolutely.
Generating power, staying on your feet, not falling and cracking your head open on the ice, all that stuff. I think can go south pretty quickly. Theo, we got to get you relaxed a little bit more over here. It's Monday. You following Theo at Theo Fernandez _ right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com. Theo, you were on the court on Saturday. I watched it from the comfort of my living room this past weekend. Alabama beating Kentucky, 96-83. I was finishing up Vanderbilt baseball and Vanderbilt basketball work. Vanderbilt basketball with a big old upset and the baseball team winning as well. So I'm finishing up those works. I'm flipping over, and Alabama is already falling into a hole. A theme on this show has been bad starts. You're on the floor. What do you think just about Alabama, the game, and specifically the poor start?
Well, I was on the floor. I was filming. And, you know, when you start a game like that, everything's kind of a blur because you're getting your shots. And it takes a minute for everything to click. And I remember the first time I looked up at the scoreboard and I realized, like, we're in a big hole. We're doing exactly we're starting exactly how we did against Auburn. We're starting exactly how we did against Mizzou. And you get concerned really fast when you've seen the team fall victim to the same thing over and over again. But it was just such a fun game, such a fun way that they fought back. But, man, those first couple minutes really did have me sweating.
What's the deal with these starts, Theo? Coach was talking about this past week, we're going to give guys a little more rest. We haven't worked as hard in practice this week. We're worried about gas tank, this, that, and the other. What's the deal with these starts? These starts are horrific. Alabama falling into a pretty nice little hole right off the bat. Let's see. There's my first quarter, first period. Cha. Oh, that's a reverse order, right? Let's go. Bam. Yeah. Alabama falling into a 20-9 hole right off the bat in the first five and a half minutes. You're down 8 points. We've been talking about starts. You lost to Auburn by 9. You lost to Missouri by 12, falling into a 9 and a 12-point hole right off the bat. So you give them an 11 point, 8, 9, 11-point advantage. Just here's what I said on last week. I'll get your perspective, Theo. I wondered if the Final Four run, we can just put all these puzzle pieces together at the very, very end and still have a great season, still have a successful. I mean, look, you go to the Final Four. I don't care what happens in these 4 games. That's a successful season. I hypothesized the team's success last year, putting it together at the very end, has been prevalent in this year's team, right? And has therefore maybe made it difficult for Coach Oates to get them to take every single game seriously and to take every single minute seriously, this, that, and the other. But I mean, that was just a weak excuse for me, Theo. Like, why do you think all these starts are just three games in a row? Bad start. And it's not just 3 games in a row. It's been most of the SEC season. The starts have been pretty poor. What is the reason for these starts? And is there any way to mitigate them going forward?
I think there's a lot of merit to what you just said. You look at one of the things that Oates has talked about a lot over the offseason and into the early parts of this season is that the roster is still so hungry for postseason success, because of how many guys weren't there. That goes without saying, right? What I do wonder, though, is you've played such a long season already. You've played such a tough schedule already. How do you keep your guys motivated for, look, here's our biggest game of the year. It's number 1 Auburn. It's at home. This will prepare us for when we play them again in a couple weeks and when we play the number 2 team and when we go to the SEC tournament. And then all that's just a tune-up for the real stretch that does matter in the NCAA tournament. So it's like you have so many big games left. I mean, we play Mississippi State Tuesday, and then you have arguably the hardest 3-game stretch ever to close out a season.
Ridiculous.
Right? It's absurd. 6-2-1. So it's like, how do you go to Columbia on a Wednesday night and stay hungry, when you know how much more is still left to come and when you know how many other chances there'll be. And I just wonder if it's a little hard for this team to play 100% and play with max intensity all the time. And that's what Oates always stresses. It's just got to be so hard to do for a full season when you're playing this kind of gauntlet, though, right?
All right, so this just hit me as you're talking. I'm wondering if, because we've outlined the goals on this show many, many times. The goal is beat Auburn twice. Then then the goals are to win the SEC regular season title. Then it's the SEC tournament. Then it keeps going on from there. NCAA tournament. I'm wondering if our goals in my brain are framed from the Anthony Grant, Avery Johnson days where if we just win the SEC regular season title and that's the only thing we win, wow, what a great year. And it's something to hang our hats on. Obviously, you want to win the SEC regular season title, but does this team maybe view that as a prize? Not as worth our effort. The real prize is in Nashville. The real prize is in the brackets, in going deep in the bracket, wherever they get thrown, east, west, or south, east, Midwest, or south. I'm wondering if maybe as a program and me as myself needs to reframe how valuable, how much stock I put into winning that SEC regular season title. Because to me that was hey. Load it up. We're gonna double up titles. You're gonna get a regular season tournament. You're gonna go to the Final Four. Yada yada yada. Undefeated. Everything's gonna be great. And I've been just a little disappointed with the attitude towards the regular season.
And Joe, that does make a lot of sense when you look at the way that I view Alabama basketball's expectations versus you. I mean, I've only been fully following Alabama basketball for 2 years, and I come in as like college basketball is my sport. That's what I know best. But you look at the goals of other huge programs, I come into Tuscaloosa and I see a team that's had this much success, and I think, yeah, they're obviously only playing for March. Any previous goals that this team used to have, you look at you look at Duke, they dropped the last game of the year, in Chapel Hill, but then they still go on to win the championship. That's still a successful season, You lose to your rival, it doesn't matter at all come March, come April. It's funny looking at the way that programs' goals evolve over time, the way that an SEC regular season title doesn't even move the needle for some people anymore, right?
Oh, man, I guess you're right. And for me, it's still like that would be a huge accomplishment. And you've got people, well, they didn't go to the Final Four. It's a failed year. Let's talk about this game specifically here. You've got a lot of complaints. What do you want to start with first? Because I've got different topics. So we got Mark Sears going for back-to-back 30 burgers. You've got Otega Owe fouling out and the complaints from Owe and Mark Pope with the officials. And really, those complaints have gone off online onto the Twitter sphere. All the Kentucky fans really unhappy about the officiating. Then you got I want to talk about Grant Nelson. Where the heck has he been? What's he doing? Is he okay? Does he need a mental health day? What's going on, Grant? I've got a lot of things that I want to get into. Cliff Amore, I thought he probably had his best game in an Alabama uniform. 15 rebounds. I mean, you give me 15 rebounds. I don't care if you never score a point, buddy. Like, just go gobble up those rebounds and be a presence inside. His defensive presence has improved tremendously, but has left a lot to be desired. So, what do you want to start with, Theo? You're the new guy. You want to start with Mark Sears? You want to start with Grant Nelson? You want to go with LeBaron Philon? What are you feeling here? Roll the dice and tell us where we go.
Okay, so there's a lot to discuss on the roster. As someone who is on the court, as someone who's about 3 feet away when these interactions are happening, always said a lot of stuff to these referees, man.
What kinds of stuff? We want to make it nice and family friendly.
There were a lot of words I could not repeat, but I think everyone has a general idea of what I was talking about, and it was just so.
Was he telling them to get their eyes checked?
I think he was just trying to give them some advice. I think he was trying to help them do the job to the best of their ability, and sometimes, players just want to help out. They want to make their FC things from their point of view. That's what Owe was doing here.
Well, you were down there. What did he have a complaint? Did he have a true gripe? What do you think?
It was all just heat of the moment, like court talk.
It was the heat of the moment. Keep going.
I'm not at the point where I've let loose enough to start singing. I think we'll get there pretty soon.
We'll be there.
We'll be there soon. But you saw the raw emotion on all these players, and that's always great to see. That's one of the coolest things about getting to actually film from down on the court, right? I mean, you're so close. Everything's so personal. You have such an inside view of everything that happened. But, man, there was just so much emotion out there. And I don't know, everyone's going to have complaints about the refs after a game like that. I think a lot of it was unwarranted. I think there are calls that you can question, but what game doesn't have those calls, right?
Theo, my friend Everett Osmer, watches the show on Facebook and says, good morning to my favorite people. We're next to each other. Just make sure you say hello. This is Theo Fernandez today, not Mason Woods. That's why we're sitting on the same couch. We want to say hello to you, Everett Osmer, and thank you so much for joining us on the Facebook machine. You can do that as well if you want to at Joe Gaither 6. So the heat of the moment, emotion. What I want you to take us to is them this start, right? Okay, you've had the bad start. Coach Oates, he throws sub after sub after sub. Like, let me scroll to this. Where's play by play right there? Period 1 at the very beginning. All right, here we go. Substitution out, LeBaron Philon. In, Aiden Holloway. This is all like in the first 90 seconds. Here we go. Another one. Out, personal foul, Grant Nelson. Substitution out, Aiden Holloway. Out, Grant Nelson. In, LeBaron Philon. In, Jaron Stevenson. You keep going down at 16:30. Again, a big mass sub. Out, LeBaron Philon. Out, Cliff Amori. In, Aiden Holloway. In, Muhammad Diabate. Coach was just, no. We are not having this bleep today. What did you think on the court as you're doing, what is it, musical chairs with the bench, getting on and off the floor? What did you see down there, and what did you think about, okay, this start?
Well, my reaction, honestly, Joe, is a little like yours, where you're just a little amused by everything that's happening, mostly because, there's one time where, Aiden Holloway comes in about a minute into the game. He goes out, misses a jump shot, and then immediately gets checked out. It's like he's subbing the way you do in the final 20 seconds of a game. It was really funny to watch almost, but then you just saw how frustrated almost Oates was, where, no, we're doing anything to avoid that slow start. And hey, eventually it worked. Eventually he found the right combo, got his guys together, and pulled off that comeback. But it was just it's frustrating to watch because I'm out there. I've seen this story before. I've seen it twice in the last 2 games. And your mind immediately starts to wonder, like, why is the team doing this again? Do they actually have a response this time? And I wasn't concerned at all watching the Auburn game, seeing them jump out to that lead.
No, I wasn't
either.
concerned
at all against Mizzou. I thought,
I
was not. That second one wasn't enough to concern me. And fully, you think that they're going to get right back into the game. And then finally, after seeing it twice, after seeing the same story play out, you see it a third time, and the panic button immediately. You got to hit it, right?
All right, so Theo, one thing we do on the program is we got voicemails. We got our phone line if you guys want to go ahead and call 205-462-7340, extension 800. But we did take a few voicemails over the weekend, so let's hear what the people had to say.
Joe and Mason, this is Dax from Jasper, Alabama. Are we back to normal Alabama? I'm calling during the halftime of the Alabama-Kentucky game. Our offense is flowing like normal, just absolutely beautifully. And the defense, it started off the game with the 16-9 before the first media timeout. And I was like, because we weren't showing all the effort that I was really liking. And it looked like the boys just had enough of it and started just putting the clamps on Kentucky. So I'm excited. I will call at the end of the game to see how we're doing. Peace.
Well, thankfully that call.
Roll bleeping Tide, fellas. Mark was on demon mode. LeBaron was on demon mode. Aiden had a little bit of demon in him, where he was just rebounding everything that was coming down. It was glorious. We just got to keep this momentum going for the rest of the season. This team hasn't hit its ceiling yet, and I am so ready to see what this team's going to do in March. Roll Tide, fellas. Keep it going.
All right, we'll pause it right there. That's Dax on a double call, one at halftime and one after the game, and that's exactly what it is designed for. Call, let us know how you feeling, then let us know how you celebrating or commiserating. Thankfully, it wasn't a sad night for Alabama. What do you think? Dax is calling out the defense a little bit, but is suggesting the offense found its flow, and I guess he's going to take us right into the Mark Sears demon time.
Oh, yeah, and I was going to say, that first half call aged perfectly, and thankfully so, because that could have lined up really badly if things flipped the other way. I'm sure that a post-game call would have sounded very, very different. I'm glad that we were able to get that kind of reaction out of him there. But, man, Mark Sears, insane. I'm going to read you guys off a quote from, what we saw Oates talk about after the game, because he was just so happy, so proud. You just heard.
You need me to fill for you while you get it? He scores 30 points. He's 8 of 17. He's 3 of 8 from the 3-point line. 11 for 11 from the free throw line. Mwah! Thank you. Perfect. Only 2 turnovers. Even better. 4 assists, 4 rebounds, and then gets himself 2 steals as well.
All right, this is Oates' post game. I think he just wants to win. He came back to try and win an NCAA championship, came back to try and play his way into the NBA. Going to break up the quote a little. He's as coachable as he's ever been. Super happy with the way he's been playing. And then he continued to talk about how he has leadership all-time high, finally stepping through. Not that he wasn't before, but finally actually taking full charge of this team, this roster, the guy that everyone's looking up to. Look at the way that he's converted Aiden Holloway into a stud. I mean, he deserves so much credit for that. Because Holloway, one of the worst things about him last year was his consistency, the way that he would just shoot himself out of games. Look at the way he started on Saturday. Because there was those first couple shifts, he was struggling. And then look at the way that this game finished. I mean, seriously, Aiden Holloway in the second half was on a tear. And Mark Sears, I think, is such a huge part of that. And I think as a whole, I mean, this man is just, he is, when his game is on the way it has been the last 2 games, he's as good as anyone in the country.
All right, so
I don't think that's a stretch to say.
You're stretching a little. But that's okay. We'll take the stretch. Here's where I am with Mark. 2 30-point games in a row. Great. Awesome. 11 for 11 from the free throw line. Amazing. Great. Only 2 turnovers. Love that. And where's my minutes played? Minutes. 35. Right. So you're all but 5. You're amazing. This might be a pain in the rear perspective. This might be a curmudgeon perspective. But Theo, you better give me that. Buddy, you can't play it. No. That's not right. You better give me that 30 points, 25 or more. Because on the defensive end, you have been not so good. Now, at times better. At times he has shown to be a pretty capable defender, and to be. But the team has struggled as a whole to stop the basketball the entire year from the top of from the top. So, Mark, you have the performance last Saturday, 2 of 11, from the 3-point line. And how many turnovers against the Auburn Tigers? And the defense was just atrocious. Well, you go up to Missouri, and yes, you were more aggressive, but the defense still absolutely atrocious. Buddy, we need the 30 points from you. We need the 30 points from you, or why are you on the floor? Is my next question. Because if it's not for offensive, we're just going to dump offense on, Mark Sears' legacy is secure as a top 5 Alabama basketball player probably ever. And so to that end, this is not a disparagement on him. But the last 2 games are much closer to what I was expecting to see out of Mark Sears than really we have seen all year. Now, a lot of that's due to what you said, integrating Aiden Holloway, integrating LeBaron Philon. The team has so many different parts. I think that would drive me nuts as a point guard to make sure to keep everybody involved. I think that would be a task in and of itself. But where do you stand, Theo? I'm sitting here like, okay, yeah, that's exactly like if you're not getting that from Mark, then he is not quite living up to the expectation or standard that has been set for him.
Okay, let's keep things in perspective here, though. That's what I'm going to say. This man, he's an All-American point guard, okay? He is the best point guard in the nation. I fully believe that, and I think it's a hard statement to argue.
Is he better? Is he better than Zakai Ziegler?
I think so.
Okay.
I think almost everyone has him as their pick for All-American right now, and performances like this are obviously the reason why. It's just, look, I love the guy. I think he is
I love the guy too.
Incredible player. I think he is the life and soul of this team. I think the team's success is fully reliant on his performance. And I think that as deep as the team is, we've seen him have rough performances, right? That goes without saying. And if this team is to get upset at some point early in the tournament, it'll be because Sears has a bad performance. I think so, at least. I think, if there's a bad match, if Alabama's to play something like UConn in the round of 32, those type of losses come down to how Mark plays. So he is without a doubt what this team, success comes down to him. He's had great games. It's hard to be super critical of a guy just because he's not scoring 30 every single night.
That's not what I'm being critical of. No. My criticism comes in the defensive end, the liability that I think he is defensively, even given the context that he's gotten better.
He's gotten better, for one. The other thing is, this roster was built knowing that he would be back running the offense. This is why you went out and brought in Chris Youngblood. This is, even though he hasn't quite panned out the way you wanted him to, this is why you brought in a guy like Houston Mallett, knowing what he could do on that other end of the floor. And obviously having Cliff out there all the time helps the defense as a whole, right? You build a team around, the fact that, okay, we might have not a full liability, but not the best defensive point guard. That's something that you just have to live with as Oates in this Alabama program. I think so.
I'm with you there, but because we are living with it, let's just flesh the entire thought out. Because you're living with it, well, Mark, you got to give me a big effort on the offensive end. You get, like, whether we're scoring 30 or whether we're racking up the assist numbers, getting into the lane, whatever your contribution is offensively, it has to be a high output scoring wise or assist wise, and a low output turnover wise. It has to be a high efficiency. You can't give me this 2 of 11 BS from behind the 3-point line. Like, if you're off from the 3-point, that's okay. Like, look, I can't shoot a 3 to save my life, so I'm not talking about that. Like, but to make up for the, okay, let's be generous, a C+ defender.
Fair.
I mean,
right.
Okay, that's what it is, buddy. Then we need that A-, A+ offensive effort nightly. And there are 4 games left. You've outlined the difficult stretch, and then we're in Nashville, and baby, it is going to be on. Like if you don't have the offensive output, or if you're inefficient on the offensive end, then you are. I hate to be this cruel, but you're wasting space. Throw LeBaron out there, throw Aiden out there, and go sit on the bench like you did again with Coach Oates with the LSU game.
I think that's a harsh statement.
Okay,
I really do.
You can push back. Hey, this is a welcome forum for you to push back. You're okay. You're not hurt. But come on.
I just think it's kind of a crazy thing to say about a guy who's just this incredible on the court. I mean, come on. This is Mark Sears. This is the guy who led us to a Final Four. This is the guy who hit the 3 against UNC last year. This is the guy who
dagger 3 against Clemson.
Yeah, he has already made history for the program. I think he could very, very likely retire as the greatest Alabama basketball player that we've ever seen. I think his number could be hanging in the rafters one day. And I think to make this kind of statement about a guy this late into his 5th year, after he's played a pretty good season, after he's led the team to a number 4 ranking in the AP poll, that obviously is subject to change, but I just think it's absurd. And I also think, we're making the statement about the wrong 5th-year senior who returned.
Yeah, I want to get into Grant too. Golly. But okay, before we move to Grant, I want you to read what is it that you think I was actually trying to say? Because I want to make sure that it's clear.
I think it's hard.
You ain't in trouble.
I think it's hard to make any real criticism of Sears this late into his 5th year with everything that you've done, because a part of it is nothing that you're saying is new. Everything that you're saying is stuff that we've known about Sears. And think about just how much more it applied 2 years ago, right? When he's, okay, what is he? The number 3 option on that Brandon Miller team.
Right.
And think about how much more it meant last year when, okay, look, he's the starting point guard on this really solid looking Alabama team that's turning some heads, but look how much of a defensive liability he is. And look at how bad he is defensively. Look, I mean, last year felt like a fever dream almost with how atrocious we were on that side of the floor at times, right? And now it's like, okay, you've got a roster that's built around to maximize, your struggles on that end of the floor. And I just think I might not fully have understood the point you were trying to get across, but
the point I'm trying to get across, and thank you, because the point I'm trying to get across is you need the Mark Sears that you saw on Saturday the rest of the way because of, I mean, in order to win at a high level, basically, because of the little bit of the liability that you get on defense. You cannot have the Saturday performance from 2 weeks ago where he goes 2-11. You cannot have, my take is if he is not giving you the offensive output and efficiency, then he is really, really hurting the team because the defense isn't really that strong either. The offense, when he's dialed in, we're plugged in. I mean, let's pull up some of these game logs. Let's see. Mark Sears game logs right here. Game logs, career game logs, perfect. That's what we love. This Sports Reference is the greatest website.
Oh, absolutely.
Just scroll all the way to the bottom. This is us against Kentucky. He's 30 and 35 your last two games. Great. But you go 18, 11. Like, those are nice numbers for a role player. Yeah, those are nice numbers for a role player. But brother, you're giving us 11, 18, and 18 in 34 minutes, 31 minutes, 31 minutes. You're going 5 of 11. You're going 4 of 17. You're going 5 of 12. Like I need, and the other part, you're going 6 turnovers, 3 turnovers. The inefficiency is not. The offensive output is not enough to erase what we're doing on the defensive end in really these handful of games against Arkansas, Arkansas, Texas, Auburn, Missouri. Like, just leave something to be desired. Missouri. You scored a lot in Missouri. Sorry, excuse me.
While it does leave some stuff to be desired, you can't just ignore. You can't just pretend that he has no impact offensively outside of the stat sheet. First of all. You can't pretend that having Mark Sears on the court isn't making things easier for every single player who graces the floor. You can't pretend that Aiden Holloway isn't, these Aiden Holloway outbursts are so much because defenses have to account for Sears too. I think the most problematic part is the turnovers. I think that there's no getting around that. I mean, a couple months ago, I was talking about Sears as, I really do think he kind of fits that Jalen Brunson mold. Like, that's the kind of guy he can be in. Some of the turnovers are just head scratching, and some of those turnovers make you think, like, okay, what is this guy's pro future like? Is he really capable of, taking things to the next level? That's a whole other debate. That's not one that I think we want to get into right now. But I think that while there's some merit to his game leaving things to be desired, while the turnovers look really bad, while some of the shooting nights look really bad, just him being out there is doing so much for our guys, And it's tough to say because, he sits against LSU. The offense still is fine. It was LSU. Would that have happened?
They're the worst team in the league. Get it?
Else?
I don't care what happened in that game.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Yeah,
I don't know that even coach pulls that move if it wasn't against LSU.
He was trying to make a statement, and he knew that it was a game where he could afford to make that statement.
Yeah.
And I think the statement has worked. I really do.
Well,
I do.
I know I'm probably coming off like I'm talking bad about Mark. I'm not. I'm trying not to talk bad about Mark. I'm trying to compliment his effort on Saturday and say that is really what you need from him because of what you've gotten on the defensive end throughout the year. All right, let's keep on going with this voicemail, and then we'll hit into Grant Nelson.
All right. From Lake Gunnerville here. Just wanted to give my congratulations to the Alabama Crimson Tide basketball team. I was starting to worry. I had personally, I had put them on fraud alert that they were going to lose 3 straight in the SEC, 2 of which at home. I was going to say this team had no chance at a Final Four, no chance to win the SEC, which should be step 1, should be goal 1 of any Alabama Crimson Tide team.
My guy.
But hey, Sears showed he wanted to be on the court, putting up 30. And, they handled business. So for that, I say congratulations, boys. You are removed from fraud alert for the time being. Roy out.
Fraud alert. Oh, hey. Roy, dead on with the almost two losses into 3. I was a little concerned. What do you think about our man Roy giving props to the Crimson Tide and taking them off fraud alert?
Roy, I'm going to read some numbers here. Okay?
Give it to him.
117-97. That was the loss we had late last February on the road in Lexington against Kentucky. We followed that up, dropping one against Tennessee. We dropped another one against Florida right after. And then we recover, win a big game against Arkansas at home, and then drop first round of the SEC tournament to Florida. You look at how bad Alabama played down the stretch last year. And then you look how fast it flipped, and you look at how fast that team was playing in the Final Four. Things can flip so fast for seemingly no reason for any team in any college basketball season. That's why it's my favorite sport. And that's why it's so hard to write off this Alabama team at any point. And it's also so hard to say, like, oh, yeah, like this team's safe. They're primed for a deep run, Did anyone think that San Diego State was really going to take us out that year? Did anyone seriously think San Diego State would send Brandon Miller home? It's like, as much as I want
that was a tough day, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure.
In the Louisville Yum Center. Ugh. KFC Yum Center. That was awful. All right, to your point, somebody asked me last week, Joe, 2 weeks ago, is this team going to win it all? And I'm like, why do you ask me that? Yeah. Why do you ask me that? Like, give the coach Saban, is this a crystal ball? Like, maybe they might. Like, and this person was smart. This person was a smart person that I respect, that I know follows sports. And I thought to myself, you have watched this sport your whole life, and you know how difficult it is. And you're going to ask me, is this team going to win it all? Yes, no. What is my answer even worth? Because it's such a dice roll. Somebody was it the Missouri game? I believe it was. Somebody was in my Twitter mentions about this team's lost all heart. This team doesn't have Final Four capability. They can't. And I thought, whoa, easy. Let's stack this team up next to last year's team. I mean, if this team plays last year's team in a 7-game series, they win 5-1.
Yeah,
they win 4-1.
Yeah,
in 5 games. Yeah, it's not close. The defensive acumen is much better. I mean, we're sitting here complaining about the defense, and rightfully so, because we're crazy people. But where are they at? According to Kenny Pomeroy, they were at 47. The last time I looked, they're at 47. 47, 99.1. Where were they last year going into the tournament? 110. So it's a lot better, and the offense is right about the same. Not as historically good, but still at a really, really good pace. Offensive efficiency is 3rd best in the country. This team dog walks last year's team.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
And so to sit here and be upset, I think is okay, because we're in a reactionary place. But you also need to keep the thought right out in front of you that, hey man, this thing can. Theo, how'd you feel last year leaving Nashville with Florida beating your tail? Like absolute second half destruction.
I think it was a 102-88
it was,
final.
Oh,
you get triple digits dropped on you.
I don't think I could have counted the beers I had on Broadway that night because I was so just like the season's over, everything's done. Like I was in a horrible mood that night. Everything's over. See, they're gonna get seeded out to this place and lose in the first round. These they stink. They wasted all my time. Wasted all my energy. And then boom, 3 weeks later, keep going.
And Joe, let's be honest, right? Selection Sunday comes around.
Yeah,
you see that draw.
Oh.
You see Charleston. You see San Diego State, and you see Grand Canyon. That is a favorable draw. So I remember I look at that and I'm like, okay, realistically, should make it through to the Sweet 16. If Mo doesn't go out and have that incredible performance against Grand Canyon, we're probably the 4 seed who got embarrassed by some school, by some online for-profit university that everyone's laughing at. It came down to a freshman, basically a nobody, having one of the bigger performances of the year to save us, because what he did that game, I think we lose that game without just everywhere that he was. And it was only 9 points, 5 rebounds. It wasn't there on the stat sheet, but anyone who watched that game knows what he did and knows that the Final Four run might not even happen without, first of all, the favorable draw that we got there, and then also the way he stepped up. Everything's so unguaranteed in March,
So because it's so questionable or so hard to predict, we need to wrap up. We're getting close to our time. We got one more voicemail, but we have to talk about Grant Nelson. What in the world is going on with this young man? I mean, I know he's a good player. Same thing we know with Mark. Only 5 points, 2 of 4, 0 of 1 from the 3-point line. It doesn't have any turnovers, so great job on that, buddy. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. Just not good. And it's not been like that's a new thing. Let's see. Grant Nelson game logs. He's been struggling for a hot minute now. Let's find right there. That's 2024. I want career. Can I find career? Y'all just gave it to me without even asking with Mark Sears. Can we give it? There we go. There's Grant Nelson. Career game logs. You've been struggling pretty hard, young man. 5 points against Kentucky. 8 points against Missouri. We did get to double figures against Auburn, but you were 5 of 11 shooting. Like, not so hot, my man. 7 against Texas. All right, there's our last run of good games. Georgia and Arkansas and Mississippi State, you get up to and have yourself some good games. What's the deal? Is it just fatigue?
I don't know, because this is nothing new with Grant, right? Consistency has been a problem for his entire 2 years here, and it's the reason that a lot of people will tell you that they don't think Grant Nelson has lived up to the hype of when he got here. Number 1 transfer, this kid who just was tearing it up in, I believe, the Horizon League or Big Sky, or whichever one North Dakota State is in. And it's tough because you take someone who hasn't played high-level competition like this at any point in his life, right? I mean, let's be real. Kid from North Dakota goes to North Dakota State, and then all of a sudden you're throwing him in the Southeastern Conference, which just so happens to be right now the greatest conference, the greatest season of any conference ever.
Insane.
Right? It's absurd.
But they're still 500. Yeah. Man, still 500 in league play.
I don't know. It's like you want Grant to have these monster performances all the time. You saw what he did in the tournament last year. You saw how good he could be, and you see the NBA potential there too when his game is on. What's it going to take for his game to always be on? Is it possible with this little stretch of his career that he has left? And is there anything that Oates can do to maximize what he can give him? Because quite frankly, I don't know. Quite frankly, I'm a little concerned. And quite frankly, there are a lot of guys on this team that you could argue should be getting a lot of Grant's minutes on a more regular basis. And
is there like a North Dakota State dish, like dinner that we can feed him? Does he need what would you do for I know Wisconsin's cheese curds or whatever. What would North Dakota? I'm not sure. We got to figure out something to get Grant's mojo back.
I don't know. Buffalo Hunt or something.
See, I don't know anything about North Dakota, so I'm not even gonna hooey with the audience there. Let's finish up with the last voicemail here, and we appreciate everybody calling the voicemails. 205-462-7340, extension 800. You can call about any Alabama games, anything you heard on the program, or anything that's going on in your mind. You just need somebody to talk to. Leave us a voicemail, 205-462-7340, extension 800. Let's finish it up right here.
What's going on, guys? Huge bounce back win. Defense was much improved. Anytime you can hold their leading scorer to 2 points, when he averages 16 coming into the game, you know you're doing something right. So tip your hat to Nate Oates, tip your hat to the boys. Much better defensive effort, and if you give that effort game in and game out, no reason why you shouldn't make the Final Four. Clifford Amore, so much better this game. Probably his best game in Alabama uniform, 11-15. And if he keeps playing like that, then Alabama can definitely win the national championship. I know I'm getting to this late, but I saw y'all talk about what we should do for 8A instead of having a regular spring game. Something that I think will be pretty cool is a coaches versus players flag football game. I think it'd be pretty cool to see Jamarcus Shepard, Maurice Linguist, Freddie Roach, and all of them play flag football against the guys who usually start, like Ryan and all of them. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe they're afraid of getting embarrassed. I don't know. But just something to think about, something that I think will be fun to see, fun to watch. But anyway, enjoyed the game yesterday, and I'll holler at y'all later.
Oh, we love it. We love it. Those are our voicemails today. We took 4 different voicemails. We appreciate everybody who called over the weekend. 205-462-7340, extension 800. Let's get into both pieces of that last one, Theo. Cliff Amore. Well, I have been complaining. I have been yearning for a Cliff Amore performance like this. 15 rebounds, 4-4, 11 points. He gets the free throw line, 75% from the line, 3 of 4. He would love that as well. You were strategic with your fouls. You didn't foul out. You didn't really put Coach Oates into a bind by getting into foul trouble. Yes, it was 4 fouls, but you spaced them all out nicely. If we can not have the 3 turnovers, then I would say it's a perfect game. And I'm very happy with you, Cliff, with this. And keep going is where we're at. Theo?
This is the version of Cliff that I thought we were getting all year. It's a little disappointing that we haven't quite seen it all year, but this is one of the things where you don't want to let your hopes up too much, but it is hard not to be really, really, really excited because the stuff that he did on Saturday, that's the player that he is. That is the guy who is, one of the best rim protectors in the Big Ten for the past 3-4 years. That's the guy who was supposed to be a seamless fit on this roster. I mean, the lobs were amazing. He got 3 different lobs.
He caught one where where he had back to the basket and behind, right?
Yeah,
he just slammed it in behind him.
And then he had a whole Showtime moment late in the game as Cliff threw him one as that time was winding down. He was just so electric out there. And that's what you need, That's what you always – and he got the crowd so into things. Obviously, only 2 more home games left on the year. But, man, the fans really appreciated what he did because they know that it's tough adjustment always, on a team with – when you played – let me tell you this. As someone who grew up about an hour from Rutgers campus and has been to a good amount of games over there, Steve Pickle, solid coach. Big Ten basketball is good basketball. It's a whole other world down here right now. And it's a tough adjustment. I think a tougher adjustment than anyone really had thought. I'm just so glad that he's capable of this kind of performance, that he's shown he can do it, because we're going to need a game like this out of him in March at some point. I don't know when it'll be, but I can guarantee you, if this team goes on a deep run, there'll be one game where everyone looks back and says, thank God they brought in Cliff. And this lays the groundwork for that performance later on.
I think you're going to need him more than just one game.
Oh, yeah.
We're excited. I'm excited for. Hopefully, this will build some momentum for him as the season comes to a close. The second thing that our last caller brought up, was the Alabama spring game. Last week we talked about the spring game, Theo, with Mason. We talked about how Texas is canceling their spring game, and a bunch of other schools are canceling their spring games because they're worried about tampering. Don't tamper with my players. So I asked, my suggestion to Mason was, let's do a Pro Bowl style skills competition. So you get Ryan Williams running through an obstacle course, and you get all the quarterbacks doing accuracy challenges, this, that, and the other. That way the fans still get their, experience with the Alabama football players, but Kalen DeBoer gets to protect all his talent. Oh, you can't really see how fast these guys are, I guess. What do you think? Coaches? Coaches versus players flag football game. I love it. I love it
too. Right?
You've got to mix like a scholarship guy or three on the coach's side, right? You've got to like mix some traders in there so that they have a chance.
But at the same time, like it would have to be guys like Ryan or like Mbakwe or Keelan Russell maybe gets out there as a couple passes. I don't know how to do it because, first of all, I think the whole trend is kind of ridiculous. I just wish everyone would be normal and not weird and just play their spring games.
Just play one like
obviously that's not the reality we live in anymore.
Well, I'm afraid of someone seeing my 4-star backup left tackle who hasn't played yet.
But all I'm going to say is that if schools really do start to cancel their spring games, and if this becomes the thing that people do, you'd be a fool to be one of the few guys who actually plays it. That's what I think right now. I think, it's very likely that we see something like this where we see the team have to come up with something fun. I'd love to see the coaches out there on the field trying to show us what they're capable, especially with how many of them had successful playing careers.
Well, they used to. I don't know. I haven't. My last 2 A-days, I think I've been on remote duty. But they usually have an alumni flag football where the older players will get out there before the game and do a flag football dealio. But there's definitely ways that they can get around it. I would just like to get every defensive lineman, give me 8, jumbo tires or whatever, and get them in a tire flip relay. That's what I want to see, a tire flip relay with the Alabama offensive line versus defensive line.
I want to see a tug-of-war offensive line versus defensive line. That's what I want to watch. I think that's where just let the trenches run the whole day. Those are the most fun competitions.
Get a little sumo, get them in those sumo suits, in those big old sumo suits, and see if they can smash into each other. And we can turn this into a whole like celebrity charity.
I want that, and I want that, and I want a team-wide dodgeball game. Those are the two things that I want, and I would be a happy guy.
Are you going offense versus defense, or are you just mixing them up? Divide the 85 down the middle.
How about let two captains draft teams? I want a live draft out on the court. Out on the field. We'll get everyone excited. Hey, the sky's the limit, right? Whatever you can imagine, you can do.
That's right. So if you guys have thoughts on Alabama's spring game, you can call 205-462-7340, extension 800. We'd love to take your voicemails on that. We'd love to take your voicemails on this basketball team. And lastly, we'd love to take your voicemails on this baseball team. Robert Green comments on Facebook. Great win, but let's see how SEC season starts at Texas A&M. Home against Tennessee will tell what the program is. We're going to talk baseball mostly tomorrow because we are about out of time. Baseball 3-0 on the weekend, 8-0 on the season. Was down 8-0 against Ole Miss. Holy smokes! Down 10-0 against Ole Miss, Ohio State. All my tabs are going crazy at this point at the end of the show. Alabama baseball was down 10-0 against Ohio State in Jacksonville on Sunday. We're doing good so far?
So do I get to charge you $1 for that one?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Did you watch the game? I mean, you had Justin LeBron, big old smackaroos, and, of course, Will Hodo. What a hero. Justin LeBron, 2 home runs, and Will Hodo, the walk-off home run to give Ohio State the dirty bird in the dugout. Well, you want to leave a comment on that before we get out of here? We should, because you won't be here another week.
Yeah, look, I unfortunately was working the Alabama softball game, filming that one. So I was following along with the game, watched the highlights as soon as I was free. Man, this team, there's something, man. This team feels different. And it has been, it's been a long time coming. We were predicted 13th in the SEC in the preseason coaches poll, and all of a sudden, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's looking like that ranking could start to rise as we climb. And a lot of it's going to be revealed during that A&M series. There's no denying that. Justin LeBron, though, 109 miles per hour. That's how fast his home run went off the bat. Absurd. I posted on my Twitter, I posted a little poll on there. Is he a top 10 pick in the MLB draft? Almost resounding, full answer was yes. And obviously, I'm biased. My audience is biased, but the hype is real. And MLB scouts agree. I mean, this is not centered around Tuscaloosa. Everyone's kind of turning their heads and seeing, how is this guy doing all this? And we're so early into the season, the ranking can start to rise. This team is just so fun, though, already.
Team gets back in action on Tuesday, 4 o'clock, right there at the Joe. Look, you guys know I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but I'm going to encourage you to get out to the Joe because Justin LeBron is worth that price of admission. And on Tuesdays, that price of admission is $2. So it's not expensive. Goodness gracious, he is absolutely worth your $2. You are more than that. You're going to be seeing him in the MLB ranks very soon, and in the upper echelon of we in Tuscaloosa. I think we've been pretty proud of Tim Anderson and his career. I think Justin LeBron is about to be on that trajectory as well. I know Tim Anderson didn't go to UA, but he's from the area, Hillcrest High School. Justin LeBron will be kind of like that, but more specifically tied into UA for playing here for 2 years. We talk about these NBA prospects on the basketball team. Go see Justin LeBron. This dude is amazing. Shortstop, infielder, and just a wizard at the plate as well. Two home runs on Sunday. Really, really great start to the season. The guys are playing Jacksonville State on Tuesday. We'll bring Mason back in tomorrow. Mason Woods will be back. He's enjoying his day at the Home Depot. We'll be back here tomorrow. We'll get Mason's thoughts on Alabama, Kentucky. We'll get more into this Alabama baseball team flipping the bird to the camera. Do you care about that or not? I don't really care about that. Don't think it's a big issue, but maybe you do. You can leave us a voicemail at 205-462-7340, extension 800. We'll talk about that with Mason and more. And, I'm going to be interviewing a local Tuscaloosa, a local professional wrestler tomorrow look, you guys know we get into wrestling from time to time. There will be a professional wrestling show in March over at the Buddy Powell Pavilion, and I'll be getting involved in just a little bit. I'm not getting chokeslammed tomorrow, but we will be interviewing someone who will be getting chokeslammed tomorrow to close down the program. That'll do it for the show. Make sure you follow Theo Fernandez at Theo Fernandez __.
Two underscores.
Two of them, because he's double special. At Theo Fernandez __. We'll be back tomorrow, and Theo will be back next Monday right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com.